Naida Glavish, Ngāti Whātua, Chair of the Runanga o Ngāti Whātua, an agent for change, well respected internationally and nationally for the work she has done to protect the rights of her people from language, social justice, health to housing.
Suicide is a devastating experience for anyone to have, whether it be a partner, children, parents, the whānau, the hapu, and iwi, has a impact absolutely on any suicide. However, there are differing views I'm aware of in terms of whānau, in terms of hapu and iwi. Those differing views often depend entirely upon one's religious upbringing. Now, whether we like to admit it or not, there is a religious impact. There is also a cultural impact. There is a shame factor without a shadow of a doubt. And there are also impacts environmentally with regards to the suicide. There is a lot of blame. There is a lot of why didn't I see it coming? Should I have read the signs better? Was there any warning? And if there was, why was I so blind to it? Why were we not looking in hindsight, of course, which is the most wisest of all wise, we can figure out the signs that were there that we didn't see. There is, of course, another dimension if the loss of life is one that has not yet produced mokopuna or potential, the potential. There is an added burden to the grief. And in particular, anyone but only child. And there is no hope of the continuity of another generation of the whakapapa. It's truly, it's devastating, absolutely devastating, and leaves whānau, in particular parents, traumatized. And we have to ensure that we have systems in place to support those who are traumatized. We have a responsibility to nurture those who are left to grieve. And there are only two things that I know of who supports those who are left. And that is time, and it may heal, but it certainly will dull the pain. And the other is your own belief system, that you can rise above the grief and not own what someone else has done for themselves and their lives. There is a physical dimension to suicide, of course, leading to the closing down of all the organs of our own physical bodies. But there's a wairua dimension as well. And I enter into the wairua dimension by saying, what part does religion play in that wairua dimension? Religion may require us to behave differently from what our own cultural beliefs are, in terms of, yeah, I'm not sure what religion actually expects of us, but there is expectations from our religious upbringing. That would lead to how what is commonly from a death process, the tangihanga, how we have a tangihanga, or whether we in actual fact have one at all to some people, and what happens to us when we arrive at the cemetery gates. Now, ancient times, I'm aware that it was not acceptable to take your life simply because your life is the most precious thing that you own, and with your life you have several choices. In those choices, to take that precious life away from you would not be acceptable if someone else did it. It would be called murder, it would be called accident, it would be called a whole range of things that are totally and absolutely unacceptable to family, to whānau, to your community that we live in, to the total environment. Totally unacceptable that somebody else take from you that precious gift of your life. So, why would it be acceptable for you to take it yourself? And in the days of old, it would not be acceptable, but it would be tolerated. It would be a process by which it would require several hui meetings within the family to ensure that whatever it is that made you take your life, that it's not still in the family that may cause others to take theirs. So that impact is a huge impact. However, spiritually, I am aware that should we die at the end of a rope or by a gun in our hand, when our wairua leaves us, and we are aware of this because of our own ancient traditions of tangihanga. In the things that we say to tūpapaku, we never say outside of a tangihanga. Such things like, you will now join your ancestors. You have arrived as a manuhiri into their midst. And as we welcome manuhiri in this realm of the living by celebrating with food, so do they on the other side in their welcome to our wairua when it arrives. And they do not say to us, you arrived at the end of a rope, we don't accept that, we would like you to go back and actually arrive in a car accident or old age or having died of cancer or some such. They will celebrate our arrival in their midst regardless how we get there. So that's a spiritual view, and it's a view that is discussed during tangihanga. And I guess I just simply want to say it is our responsibility to try our best to ensure that those of our people who are in a state of depression, who are in a state of grief, who are in actual fact finding it extremely difficult to function with true vitality in this life that we have, then we must offer help. We must give them the hand of support. It's only when we're not aware that they're able to carry out that function of ending their own lives. One of the things we need to consider is inside of the whānau, and the whānau know themselves extremely well. Inside of the whānau, that there be an element of edification, telling our daughters that they are beautiful, telling our sons that they are handsome, and speaking highly of them and reminding them of their potential in their future, and ensuring that they feel valued, and that in that being valued, that they actually generate their own self-worth. It is those who feel that they have no worth, who are in a depressed state, that could lead them to committing an act of suicide. Not only do we have that responsibility within our whānau, we also have that responsibility within the hapu and within the iwi. Now, we know that the most powerful platform in the world of Māori is in actual fact the platform of tangihanga. And every time we attend a tangi, it's the responsibility of ngā, what we call karanga mātua, those who are of the generation of parentage. It's our responsibility during the process of any tangihanga to speak about the self-worth that we all have towards each other, and indeed to our sons and our daughters, our mokopuna, that they are valued. We have a language that speaks of our value, of our children. For instance, tamariki is tama-ariki. We know the ariki is of the higher realm, and so that is where the value to our children are. We need to remind ourselves that we have a reo, a language which actually highlights for us that our children are the reflections of the arikitanga. And so we need to get that message out there, remind ourselves that that we're an extremely lucky race of people that hold those values throughout our whānau hapu and our iwi. I just want to say that we need to encourage our grandmothers and our grandfathers. Today's grandmothers are different from the grandmother who raised me, for instance. Today's grandmothers are younger. Today's grandmothers and fathers are still finding themselves in their own journey of life, but they need to be celebrated, and the mokopuna will always be the reflection of their tupuna. And so we need to celebrate on a daily basis how we value ourselves and how we value everyone in our household and everyone in our whānau and everyone in our hapu, our iwi and our communities. Kia ora koutou.